Let's take a look at this beautiful crochet stitch. It's called the V-stitch cluster. It has just enough density and airiness to create a beautifully draped fabric. And best of all, it is only a 1-row repeat. So let's take a look and learn the stitch together. All right, let's take a look at this V cluster stitch, a beautiful 1-row repeat, so it's really easy to do. You can see I made a couple different swatches here. Here I used a worsted weight acrylic yarn and I did stripes with it. That of course required a lot of ends to weave in, so if you prefer you can use also a self-striping yarn, like this makes it for a beautiful effect. If you want to do some stripes, of course this could make a beautiful single color project as well, but I think the stripes really bring out the stitches in this. I am using for today's swatch a 100% cotton yarn. This is the Knit and Crochet brand and it is a DK weight yarn. And I'm also going to be using 2 different size crochet hooks to do this stitch. The smaller one, the 4mm one, I'm going to do for the body of the fabric, and I'm going up 1 crochet size to the 5mm hook to do the foundational chain. And the reason for that is I want my foundation chain to be nice and loose. If it's too tight, it tends to bind in that first row and cause your fabric not to be nice and square. So we're just going to use that larger hook to do our foundation chain. Okay, we're going to start with this green color yarn here, and I'm going to start with a slip knot with my larger hook, and we're going to do a chain that is equal to a multiple of 3. So however wide you want your project to be, make sure that your stitch count or your chain count is a multiple of 3. So let's do that a moment. All right, I made 24 chains for my foundation, and now we can begin to do our V-stitch cluster stitch. Now I'm going to remove my larger hook and start using my smaller hook for the stitch. And we're going to start this with kind of just a setup row. So this will look just slightly different from the 1-row repeat that you'll do for the duration of your project, but this setup row is just slightly different, but it utilizes the same stitches. So we're going to start our first stitch in the 6th chain from the hook. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in this chain we're going to start, and we're going to start by doing a stitch called the double crochet 2 together. And this is what that looks like. We're going to start with a yarn over. We're going to insert our hook into that 6th chain from the hook, bring that yarn through, another yarn over, go through 2 loops on your hook. Now we're going to start another double crochet in that same space before we finish this first one. So we'll start again with a yarn over, insert your hook in that same stitch you did the first one, bring that yarn through, yarn over, bring through 2. Now you've got 3 loops on your hook. You'll do another yarn over and bring through all 3 of those loops to finish that double crochet. So now that what we have is we've got the chains that we skipped, that serves as 1 double crochet. That's always going to be on the edge of our project. And now we have 2 double crochets together as our first half of the V stitch. Now we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to do another one of those double crochets 2 together in that same space. So let's start again with a yarn over, insert our hook into that same space, bring the yarn through, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, insert again, bring the yarn through, yarn over, bring through 2, and yarn over, bring through all 3. Okay, so now we've got 2 of those double crochets 2 together in one space with a chain 2 between them, and that little sequence there is our V-stitch cluster. So we're going to do those stitches across our row and continue to make those nice V-stitch clusters. So now what we need to do is skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and go into that 3rd stitch, and we'll make another V-stitch cluster. So let's do a yarn over, insert, bring that yarn through, yarn over, bring through 2, another double crochet, insert in the same stitch, bring through, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, bring through all 3. Let's do the other half of that V-stitch cluster by chaining 2, yarn over, insert, bring yarn through, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, insert again in that same spot, bring through, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, bring through all 3. Okay, so now we've got 2 of those V-stitch clusters along the way. Now we'll skip 2 again, 1, 2, and do that same thing in that third space. Okay, now we're going to continue to do that by skipping 2 again and working those V-stitch cluster stitches in that third chain. Don't forget to do the little chain 2 between your 2 halves of that stitch, and we will do that till we have 3 chain stitches left on our from our foundation. All right, just finishing up that last V-stitch cluster. And now you should have 3 chains left. 1, 2, 3. And in that last chain, we're going to end with just a regular double crochet stitch. All right, now that completes our very first row. And now we will start row 2, which is going to be our repeat row. All right, let's start row 2, which is our repeat row. Now you can start this row or any of the rows in one of 2 different ways. You can either start the row by doing 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then turn your work and begin the stitch. That chain 3 will serve as your first double crochet that you'll have at the end of each row. And that works fine. But what I like to do is what is called a stacked single crochet. And it just looks a little bit neater with your finished project. Your edges are a little bit straighter. So that's what I prefer to do. So let me show you how to do that if you'd like to learn that. What we're going to do without doing any chains at the end of our row, we're just going to right away turn our work. And in that very first stitch there, we are going to do a single crochet. So insert your hook, yarn over, bring through, yarn over, bring through both loops on your hook. That's a single crochet. Now we're going to do another single crochet right on top of it, but we're going to insert our hook in that very first strand of yarn that on the left here that you see from that stitch that you just completed. So let's insert our hook in that first strand of yarn, yarn over, bring through, yarn over, bring through 2. Now that's a stacked single. That will serve as our first double crochet of the row. It looks a little bit more like a double crochet, so that's why I like it. It just gives for, like I said, a little bit of a neater, straighter edge. Now we're going to continue to do those V-stitch clusters, and we're going to do them in these chain 2 spaces that were produced from our previous row. So we're going to do that same V-stitch cluster right in that chain 2 space. So let's do that by doing a yarn over, insert, bring through, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, same space, bring it through, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, bring through all 3, then do your chain 2 to do the other half, yarn over, insert that same chain 2 space, bring through, yarn over, bring through 2, yarn over, insert again, bring through 2, and yarn over, bring through 3. Okay, so that is our next V-stitch in that chain 2 space. So now let's go to the next chain 2 space. Make sure you're going into that chain 2 space, not this first little space between our V-stitches, but in that chain 2 space in the center of those V stitches from our previous row. So yarn over, insert, Okay, and then we're going to continue to do those V-stitch clusters in these chain 2 spaces all the way to our last cluster. Then I'll show you how to end this row and how we'll switch colors then to our orange. All right, I just completed my last V-stitch cluster in that last chain 2 space of the row. Now I'm going to finish this row by doing a double crochet, just a regular double crochet in this chain 3 space. Now you can do it right in the chain space, or what I like to do is actually do that double crochet within one of the chains of that chain 3 space. And that again just gives it a little bit of a neater, cleaner edge. So that's that double crochet. All right, now we are ready to change colors, and here is how I like to do that. Now there's different ways you can change colors at the end of the row, but I find that this is the simplest way. Just finish the row like you normally would. Pull your yarn out of that last stitch there, take your hook out, and now we are going to start our next color by inserting your hook now in these 2 strands of yarn that was there from your last stitch, right in those 2 strands. Get your new color ready, loop that through over your hook, and bring that new color through those last 2 strands from that previous stitch. And now you're ready to just use that new color to begin your new stitch, and you can pull this green one now out. That is done. You can snip that off. If you like, after you do a few stitches, you can tie these 2 ends together, and that will just kind of secure it so those last little stitches aren't so loose. But now let's start again by doing that stacked single crochet to turn our work and start with our new color. So let's do that stacked single crochet again by inserting our hook in that very first stitch, doing a single crochet and inserting it into that first strand of that stitch, the one on the left. Bring it through and over and bring it through for that stacked single. All right, now we can pull those ends in again. Again, you can tie those together just to make that a little secure. Okay, so that's our stacked single, it's our double crochet, and now we're just going to do the exact same thing we did in the previous row by doing those V-stitch cluster stitches in these chain 2 spaces all the way across, this time with our new color. All right, let's continue with our new color all the way to the end of this row. I'm going to just do a couple more rows so you can see how this is looking with our 2 color stripe and our beautiful V cluster stitch, and then we'll wrap it up. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial on this beautiful V cluster stitch. Again, it makes for a beautiful draped piece of fabric, perfect for blankets or scarves or anything that you'd like. It's really nice drape to it. And again, striped or solid color works wonderful as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy crocheting.